Attraction doesn't come from a smile, a compliment, or gentleness. It springs from an ironic paradox. The less you need, the more you attract. In the world of instinct and willpower, what's withheld always holds more value than what's easily given. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "Humans are driven by a blind will to live, not by reason nor morality. It's this force that fuels every desire and every pursuit." And in relationships, the more a man acts from a fear of losing someone, the more invisible he becomes in the eyes of a woman. Texting first, replying instantly, always being available, always nice, always present. This is the quickest way to diminish your own value. Every effort made to prove you're different merely highlights the lack of self-control. Nothing is less attractive than a man who loses his center simply to hold on to someone else. No fancy dialogues, no mind games, no fake confidence. Attraction isn't about performing. It's about intentional calmness. It's when a man shows up without needing to explain himself. It's when he's so genuinely himself that he no longer seeks validation from anyone else. True attraction doesn't come from chasing someone. It comes from becoming someone who doesn't chase at all. Not out of arrogance, but because he has found enough within himself. And it's precisely that, his calm scarcity and mystery, that captivates others. In this video, there are no pickup tricks, only a clear path to stop losing yourself. 5 principles inspired by Schopenhauer will expose common mistakes and completely reset how you position yourself with women. No more pressure, only attraction. No more dependence, only desire. No longer trying to be chosen, but becoming irreplaceable. This is an awakening. Not to be loved, but to stop losing yourself in that game. Every effort to impress others hides a deep-seated belief: I'm not good enough. But Schopenhauer taught us that much of human suffering comes from the illusion that others think about us far more than they actually do. When you try to create a false image, adjust your actions, or showcase an idealized life for approval, you inadvertently lose your authentic self. In the eyes of those around you, the man constantly striving to impress will never truly be respected, because he's merely an actor, performing, not a man with genuine strength. People sense the unnaturalness and anxiety behind every action and every word. True attraction doesn't need proof. It comes from a grounded presence, a calm and unhurried demeanor, a naturally confident gaze that never seeks permission to exist. A genuinely attractive man doesn't need to be liked or approved by anyone. He lives by his own standards, unaffected by others' opinions or desires. That's exactly what makes him irresistibly appealing. A man women can't ignore and others must respect. When you genuinely believe you have nothing to prove, not only will women be drawn to you, but the world itself will quietly offer you its profound respect. Schopenhauer was right. True attraction starts the moment you stop caring about impressing others. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "We lose 3/4 of ourselves trying to be like other people." This rings especially true when men try too hard to prove their worth in hopes of being loved. Ironically, it's the desperation and craving for unconditional acceptance that mark the beginning of desire's death. Desire can't grow where acceptance is always guaranteed. When a man becomes predictable, always available, instantly responsive, overly accommodating, and so nice he loses his edge, he doesn't attract love. Instead, he reveals a deep inner emptiness. Real attraction doesn't arise from trying to appear perfect. It stems from distant uncertainty and unmet desires. Schopenhauer believed life itself is suffering, and it's precisely in the pain of unfulfilled desire that attraction reaches its peak. When you constantly try to prove your value, you place yourself in a weaker position, becoming someone who begs for validation instead of someone who confidently chooses. Women don't leave because you lack value. They leave because you've tried too hard to prove it, and in the process, you've lost your unique self. True attraction lies in maintaining self-control, keeping your individuality intact, and inviting others into your world, rather than desperately trying to fit into theirs. According to Schopenhauer, desire is endless suffering. The harder you grasp for it, the faster it slips away. So become someone who isn't easily possessed, not because you're playing games, but because you're strong enough not to need those games. Arthur Schopenhauer once declared, "A man can truly be himself only when he is completely alone." This harsh truth is something most modern men avoid. They fear solitude because it forces them to confront their deepest nature. No one left to blame, no one to lean on, no comfort to seek. Yet it's precisely during this period of solitude that a man's strongest will to live awakens. When the encouragement, comforting messages, and applause vanish, he must find his own reason to keep moving forward. He has no other option but to rise, not because someone else needs him, but because he refuses to let himself fall into despair or decay. A man matured by solitude is no longer fragile or dependent. He becomes solid like a rock, standing firm in the midst of a stormy sea. He doesn't search for someone to fill the void. He has learned how to fill that void within himself. Ironically, it's this very independence and strength that makes him incredibly attractive to others. He doesn't need to possess anyone or have someone constantly beside him to confirm his worth. Yet strangely, this makes him a compelling shelter others naturally gravitate toward. Schopenhauer was right. A man who chooses solitude discovers profound inner strength and becomes the most authentic version of himself. Arthur Schopenhauer once stated, "The less intelligent a person is, the less mysterious they are. In fact, the more you try to explain yourself, the more you lose your mystery. And the first thing lost is the respect of others." A man who constantly justifies himself and seeks to be clearly understood is actually sacrificing his position. He's not showcasing strength, he's begging for acceptance. Those who live in fear of being misunderstood don't truly live for themselves. They live for the gaze and judgment of others. This fear eats away at masculinity, transforming a master of his own life into someone who begs for validation. When a woman challenges, misunderstands, or corners you, the weak man's immediate reaction is to defend himself. The strong man's response, however, is silence. Schopenhauer understood this clearly. The weaker the ego, the more words you use. A man secure within himself doesn't need words to confirm his worth. He doesn't need everyone to fully understand him, to feel valuable. Real attraction doesn't come from persuading others with explanations. It comes from standing firm when questioned or doubted. A man who knows his worth doesn't seek external validation. If someone fails to see his value, he allows them to leave without desperately holding on. Only when you stop feeling the need to explain yourself do you step into genuine power. Silence is no longer weakness. It becomes an unbreakable wall. Hold your ground, protect your silence, and let the world adapt to you. Schopenhauer once said that human life is driven by a blind will, an unconscious instinctive force that pushes us to constantly react instead of consciously choose. Anyone who lives purely in reaction mode can never truly control their life, much less their relationships. Many men fail in relationships not because they lack feelings, but because they let emotions drag them around, like a dog on a leash. When she texts briefly, they feel anxious. A slight compliment from her instantly brightens their mood. Her coldness or silence sends them spiraling into panic, losing control as they desperately try to fill the void they fear so much. A man who follows Schopenhauer's philosophy is different. He doesn't live based on reactions to external events. He calmly reflects from his inner strength. He doesn't freely hand out his emotions or attention to anything that isn't truly worthy, because every action, every word, every feeling he offers is precious life energy. And that energy should never be given away carelessly. If she only invests 40%, you never invest 100%. This isn't playing games. It's respecting your own value. You respond selectively, not from anger or fear of loss, but with clarity and purpose. You understand that controlling your emotions is your ultimate inner power. Schopenhauer believed anyone who cannot control himself will always remain someone else's slave. In love, the greatest attraction happens when you need nothing, yet others want everything from you. Stay selective, stay calm, don't react hastily. Quietly observe and guide the direction of the interaction. In Schopenhauer's philosophy, love is never the final goal or highest achievement of life. For him, a woman isn't a prize awarded to a man for living correctly. Rather, she's a special challenge designed to test whether he's strong enough to stay true to himself, or if he easily drifts away from his true nature. When a man places all his worth and life's meaning into the hands of a woman, he unknowingly becomes his own worst enemy. At that moment, he makes external factors, such as affection, attention, or praise, necessary conditions for feeling valuable. Schopenhauer sees this as emotional slavery, where a man loses his inner freedom and becomes a prisoner to someone else's feelings. A man living with true purpose never collapses after rejection or spirals into despair when abandoned. He clearly understands his true value doesn't come from a woman, but rather from the inner drive within, the powerful and determined instinct that pushes him forward. This emotional and spiritual independence makes him more attractive than any superficial quality. Women might initially be drawn to good looks, talent, or sweet words, but what truly captivates them is a man who never lets himself be controlled by them. Ultimately, Schopenhauer reminds us never to let love define our lives. Instead, find true meaning within yourself, in independence, inner freedom, and the enduring strength of your will to live. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, "The world isn't driven by reason, but by an unconscious force he called will, a blind instinct controlling human actions." In love, the most attractive person isn't the one who speaks the loudest or shows affection the most intensely, but the one who remains steady while the world around him shakes. A man who truly knows his own value and identity doesn't need to chase anyone. He doesn't seek approval, explain himself unnecessarily, or sacrifice who he is to keep someone from leaving. Instead, he stands firm, like a pillar, forcing the world around him to adapt to his presence. Real power doesn't lie in chasing after people. It's found in the calm confidence of knowing you're irreplaceable. The more a man chases, the more he loses attraction and respect. On the contrary, the man who holds his ground, the one who doesn't fight for attention yet is impossible to ignore, is the one truly in control of the game. Schopenhauer famously said that the self-sufficient man is truly free, and the greatest freedom is not needing anyone else to feel whole. Once you choose yourself and build a life strong enough, deep enough, and meaningful enough attraction becomes a natural result, not a goal to pursue. A truly strong man doesn't struggle to seize power. Instead, power naturally gravitates towards him, not because of effort, but because he embodies that power itself. Philosophy means nothing if it stays on paper. Knowledge has no weight if it never becomes action. Schopenhauer clearly understood one thing: will is the root of existence. If you've understood this, then it's time to act like someone who's truly awakened. Don't just nod silently. Don't treat this video as temporary motivation and then slide back into procrastination. The world won't wait. Weak men are being pushed down into the mud every day by their own passivity. If you don't change now, then if you don't start rebuilding yourself today, when will you finally raise your head and live a life worthy of respect? Burn this mindset into your memory. Write it down. Comment as a commitment, not to anyone else but to yourself. Don't just like the video. Use these principles to rebuild the backbone that's been rotting away from compromise, fear, and dependence on others' opinions. Switching off your screen doesn't mean life pauses. Everything you've just heard. Now it's time to actually live it. Act as if you can't tolerate another day stuck in the same old weakness. Take action right now. Otherwise, you'll continue drifting, like millions of other men silently decaying.